How important it is to tell a good story, I found out many years ago when I was kicked off the stage at a management meeting of a big company. Can you imagine how horrible that was for me? I'm Kai-Jürgen. I'm an author, a decision-making expert and a professional speaker. And this slow was a defining moment of my career. So, that is the reason I worked hard on my storytelling skills. I can see in your faces that nobody of you thought that you could ever be kicked off a stage. So this is probably not the reason why you are sitting in this workshop right now. Why are you here? And what do you expect to take home from this? I need a few volunteers who want to share with us their motivation for this workshop. Thank you. I'm glad that you have a good reason to be here. In preparation for today, I held a test segment of this workshop to a club I was visiting. My starting idea was to tell a story so badly that the audience would find countless ways to do it better. Sounds like a good plan, doesn't it? So I told my story. Later I asked, "What's wrong with that story?" First hand went up. "It was an exciting story." Another one said, "It was inspiring." And another one said, "It touched me emotionally." At that moment, I asked myself, what is wrong with that audience? Absolutely nothing. The whole concept of my mini workshop was ruined because I sucked. I sucked at being bad in storytelling. Something I would have mastered effortlessly a few years ago. Be careful. If you apply what we are talking about today, you can't go back, even if you want to. Every moment of a story can be filled with life. If we succeed to switch on our audience mental cinema, our stories might live a richer life than they actually did, because nothing is as rich as our fantasy. Everything what we are talking about today is about switching on this mental cinema. We will see it affords only a few steps. Storytellers of District 95. If you want to excel in storytelling, you can do it in 3 steps if you like. And today we are going to make every single one count. If I tell you these steps, you might say, "Easy peasy, that is not a problem." And you're right. If you know what you're doing, this is easy. First step, choose the right story. Second step, prepare the story right. Third step, tell the story right. That's it. You don't need money, talent, or a lot of experience to do it. Just 3 little steps done right. If you want to know which story to tell, you have to go back to what is most important to every speech. Because we are not storytellers, we are speakers. Okay, easy question. What is most important to every speech you might develop? What is most important to every speech? Right, it is the message. Think about it. We're not giving a speech to lull our audience with nice words into a sweet slumber. No, we want to convey a message. Everything we say, everything we do has to serve the message of our speech. By the way, what is the message of this workshop? Yes, do 3 steps and you tell an electrifying story. We are still in step 1, which is find the right story. Our story is part of our speech. That means our story has to serve the message. And here is the reason why the speech often doesn't click with the story in it. Imagine you experience a story, and it is so good that you really have to tell it. So you build a speech around it. Does that sound familiar to you? To me too. And it is wrong. But what could be wrong about that? I don't know how you experience it, but I think every story has a natural message. It is like the DNA of the story. And then there is the speaker, and she has something to say of her own to her audience. What do you think? Will the speaker use the story's natural message, or will she give it some work so she can use the message she wants to convey? Right. Every self-respecting speaker will transport her own message. In that regard, the speaker always trumps the story. The result, the message of the story, sounds odd. That is the reason we should do it the other way around. Start with a message and then find the matching story to it. Maybe the story won't be as spectacular as if you focus on the story first. But believe me, the audience will like your speech much more. So it's way better to put the message at the beginning of the process. So that was step 1. You find the right story if you match its message to the message of your speech. Good. What was step 2 again? Yeah. Yes, prepare the story right. Why the heck should you prepare your story? By all means, you were there and you know exactly what happened, right? So what kind of preparation do you really need? I have 2 points regarding this. The first one is technical. Whatever incident you want to share with your audience. In real life, it took much longer than you have time in your speech. So you have to shorten it anyway. The second one is more profound. For me, a public speaker is not a professional like a plumber, an accountant, or a dentist. In my book, public speaking is an art. So, a speaker is an artist like an actor, an author, or a magician. The experience might have been real, but you as an artist make it something new that is part of your creation. Like a painter who depicted a young woman and gave her an enigmatic smile that the world still admires today at the Louvre. Preparation makes your incident a story. In order to do that, I want to show you the emotional roller coaster. It is a method how to give your story the right amount of drama and everything else that makes it a real pleasure to listen to. The shape of the green curve loosely resembles a roller coaster. And where the people in the real roller coaster scream because of their excitement, the story gets intense. We will see that in a moment. What I'm showing you now is a bit technical. We have 2 axes. The horizontal axis stands for the time from start to end of the story. The vertical axis shows what happens to our hero. If she is lucky, it is good fortune. like a lottery win. But since happiness is quite boring, it will be most likely ill fortune, at least at a certain point in the story, like losing her job. Got that? Good. The emotional roller coaster runs through 5 different scenes. It starts with the normal world, and it ends with the hero's return to the normal world. Everything between is the exciting part of our story, the adventure world. In the normal world, we get to know our hero. We don't want to depress our audience yet, so everything is quite fine. It's not perfect, life never is. And if I asked you how you experience your own world, you might say, it's okay. So does our hero. Through her own doing or just circumstances, our hero gets a problem. But since everybody has problems, this is not enough to make you care. By the way, to make you care is the key to successful storytelling. If you don't care what happens to the hero, I shouldn't bother telling the story. So, there's also a challenge. For the purpose of the story, the challenge loads so much on the hero that she loses control over her world. For example, the problem is you have to pay back a loan to your bank. The challenge is you have to do it till the end of the week and you don't have a penny in your pocket. And if you think this is hard, then our story is ready to move to the next scene. The crisis. We will see later, this is the most important scene of the story. It is the scene where a decent storyteller makes you really care. The hero loses the control over her life. In fact, you identify a crisis through the hero's loss of control. So she can't stop the ill fortune. She loses big time and finally hits rock bottom. The hero reaches the abyss. It can't possibly get worse. Life is so cruel now that everything the hero believed in before is no longer valid. So the hero is open for learning something new. If the storyteller made good use of the crisis before, and you care for the hero, you can't wait that the hero finds a way out of her troubles. And that is the moment to introduce a new character. The mentor. The function of the mentor is to provide a solution for the hero that puts the control over her world back in her hands. That is very important. In a story, heroes are made, not born, and the mentor is part of that. So the hero never finds the solution on her own. It makes the hero human that she needs the help of someone else. With the hero back in control, we move to the next scene. The rise. The hero works her way out of the abyss. That doesn't mean that everything is good again. But she slowly gets back and her fortune rises. The scene's purpose is to show you that the solution really works. Finally, the hero returns to the normal world. But she appreciates it much more, because now she knows what it's like to be at rock bottom. Through the whole ordeal, the hero transformed into a new person, Hero 2.0. And she also gained an insight. And guess what? It is the message of the story. Again. Theory is nice, practice is even better. I will tell you a short story just to show you how the emotional roller coaster works. I won't go too much into the details. To keep it short, we will do that later together. There's this young man who came back to India after he successfully passed his exams as a lawyer in Great Britain. Being new in the job, it is obviously not easy to find new clients. But after a while, he finally had his first client. He meticulously prepared for the first day in court. Similar like you would do with a story. He was sure he would mop the floor with the opposing party. The courtroom was packed full. Because it's India, and of course there would be many other sessions on that day. Then the judge looked at him. "Mr. Gandhi, please present your case to the Crown." Mahatma Gandhi stood up and walked straight to the lectern. At least he wanted to, but he did it on shaky legs. Thank God there was the lectern. Oh, he never thought what a great support that was. So, despite his trembling knees, he stood now in front of the court. "Mr. Gandhi, we don't have the whole day for you. Present your case." But Gandhi had a challenge. He was shy. Too shy for this big audience. Gandhi begged himself, "Please talk." In him grew a fear he never experienced before, and he heard an inner voice saying, "Rather will India be free than I will talk in front of so many people." Oh no, he felt hot. Sweat trickled down his face, and then the full weight of shame came down on him. He was the shame of his family. What could be worse than that? The answer came swiftly and totally crushing. Frozen in the lectern, he heard it. Ha 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 ha. A colleague laughing, and another and another. As the whole courtroom shook under the spiteful laughter, Gandhi ran out of the room. He promised himself, "I will never speak in front of an audience. It was just too painful, too humiliating." His promise held true for a long time. But then his family sent him to South Africa to help a friend with legal problems. His first experience there, the train conductor threw him out of first class. Despite having a first-class ticket, he should travel in the luggage department. Disgusted, he left the train and wanted to take a horse carriage. But he wasn't allowed to travel with white passengers because of apartheid. He was supposed to sit with the driver on the coach box. Evil rules and ignorant people sometimes make the most amazing mentors. Because that experience made him so furious that he committed himself to change, even if it meant to speak in front of a court. And he did. He became notorious for defending the equality of his fellow Indians in South Africa. His newfound passion allowed him to overcome his shyness. And later, he even freed India from British oppression, alone by his voice and his amazing skills to persuade a whole nation to peaceful, passive resistance. Find your true passion, and there's nothing that holds you back. Have you seen how this works? Now it's your turn. We will invent a new story. The emotional roller coaster looks nice, but we can't really ride on it. That is the reason I put all the important stuff from the emotional roller coaster in a form that I call the story matrix. Later I will give you an internet link where you can download the story matrix and much more for your personal use. As you can see, the story matrix consists of 9 fields that map to the different parts of our roller coaster. And there's an extra for the inside of the story, or as you know, the message. We are going to invent a new story. I start with the normal world, and then you suggest how the story could evolve. The Toastmaster with the best proposal tells the respective next scene with the help of the story matrix. That means 4 Toastmasters get the chance to tell us their scene here on stage. At the end, we will have a story we invented together, and we will determine what the natural message of this story is. Every volunteer gets 1 minute to tell his scene. Questions? Or can we start? Remember, 3 steps for an electrifying storytelling. Step 1 was choose the right story that matches your speech's message. In step 2, we use the emotional roller coaster to prepare our story. So let's see how we tell our story right. Which is, by the way, step 3, if you forgot. We have the right story, and we have it prepared right. Now we want to bring it on stage. As a Toastmaster, you know, there is so much to say about stage performance that there is no way to cover the whole thing here. So let's focus on the one thing that is most important when you tell a story. And that is the difference between context perspective and experience perspective. The context perspective tells us in abstract words what happens. The experience perspective shows us how. So we cover a lot of our story in context perspective and zoom in on important scenes with the experience perspective. Let's see. I took the flight from Frankfurt and arrived just in time to see George Yen's keynote. That is context perspective. He stood there on the stage, and then I saw it. His eyes. I don't know how he's doing it, but there is a ray of pure appreciation leaving his eyes. It's buzzing bzzz, through the air. I see it coming. I know it will hit me right here in the center of my heart. But while I'm seeing it, every thought of self-doubt leaves myself. And this ray of appreciation is coming nearer and nearer. And I think to myself, strange. I was never without self-doubts for my whole life. Until now. That is when the ray reached me. What a Toastmaster. Okay, that was a bit of an overstatement, but I think you understand the difference now. With the context perspective, we save time. With the first sentence, I covered several hours in real time. With the experience perspective, it's the other way around. We are stretching the time artificially, making seconds to minutes. Like when I zoomed in on George Yen's keynote. Most people never leave the context perspective in storytelling, and that is a shame. We need both. The context perspective gives us all the information we need to understand the story. The experience perspective gives us everything we need to feel the story. Question. On which scenes of the emotional roller coaster do we use the experience perspective? That is right. We use it in the 2 most important scenes, in the crisis and in the abyss. The crisis is even more important, because if we do our job right, the audience really feels with the hero. We show the loss of control on 3 different levels, It starts how we feel. Like Gandhi. How does someone feel with stage fright? A dry mouth, his face feels hot, shaky knees, and all this stuff. What happens in his thinking? It is circular to the situation. The shame, what will those people in the courtroom do? What will happen afterward? And so on. What is he doing? First he is frozen. Then he runs out of the room. On all these three levels, feeling, thinking and doing, we experience the loss of control. The situations may differ. Our hero might not be locked by fear, but whatever she feels, thinks or does, it won't help to get back the control. That is the nature of the crisis. If we did a good job in the crisis, our audience is compassionate and wants the hero to get better. So if there is a mentor and helps, that is exactly what the audience wants. That is the reason why we have to zoom in on the crisis, because this makes the audience part of our story. Or in other words, it effectively switches on our listeners' mental cinema. It's your turn again. We have 5 small scenes on this slide, but this is only the barest of imaginable context and no experience. Your task, just tell us what happens and show us the experience in 1 minute or less. Volunteers, hands up. You run for the bus and arrive in time, but the bus driver keeps the door closed and drives off 1 minute later. A harmless-looking small dog runs to you and sinks its teeth in your leg. You are taking a test, and it is clear that you will fail. You didn't prepare yourself good enough. You are standing in front of an audience, and you don't know what to say. Suddenly, it rains cats and dogs. It is pouring. You have no umbrella. Thank you. Use the experience perspective to zoom in on your most important scenes. Your storytelling will be gripping and it will electrify your audience. Remember, there are 3 steps to make your storytelling electrifying. 3 steps to switch on your audience mental cinema. Step number 1, start with a message and find the matching story for this message. Step number 2, use the story metrics to prepare an emotional roller coaster for your audience. And step number 3, zoom in on the most important scenes of your story with the experience perspective. So, how far will we get with these 3 methodical steps? I think you might have an idea now. I promised you an internet link to a page with support material. Voila, here it is. Either you use the QR code with your smartphone or you use the link. Next time we meet, you will tell me your stories. I'm looking forward to it.